Today's podcast is brought to you by Audible. Get a free audiobook download and 30-day free trial at audibletrial.com/spookshow. Then go over to morbidlybeautiful.com as we are now part of the Morbidly Beautiful Podcasting Network.
It's alive! It's alive! It's alive!
You're too! You're too!
Everybody here dies by dawn. Dead by dawn!
Welcome to the Spookshow. Hello and welcome back to the latest edition of the All-American Spookshow podcast. I'm Josh and I'm joined here with Tiana.
Hey.
And the Professor Smoke.
What's up?
And today we are here to officially kick off, maybe kind of unofficially a little bit, but we'll just call it what it is. It's the kickoff to the Sasquatch Summer. So all this summer, we're going to be talking about Sasquatch movies. Because if you recall, if you're a listener of the Spook Show regularly, back in the winter we had our first ever winter event.
Yeti Yankers.
Yeah, no, we called that one.
No, that was one of the ones we didn't go with.
That was when we were spitballing. We didn't go with it. We called it.
Okay.
We call it Polar Predators, and that the whole theme of that winter event, took about 2 months or so, was snow monster movies, right? Yetis, abominable snowmen, snow beast, snow monsters, however you want to phrase it. That's what that was about. So we decided to go with Sasquatch Summer, even back then, as kind of an extension of that. So, this is the opposite side of that, right? Because, essentially in lore, right, Smoke, you've got these cryptids or whatever. There's the abominable snowman. There's a Yeti, kind of like his. That's the snowy
Himalayan.
Himalayan. That's the snowy mountain cousin of the Sasquatch.
Yeah.
Who I think generally supposedly lives in the Pacific Northwest of the U.S. or something, right? That's where the early sightings of Bigfoot back in the 60s and 70s, right?
And I'm no expert, but I can't remember. I think they called, I'm pretty sure they called the Yeti a Sasquatch too, right? I think they're both Sasquatches. That you got the Bigfoot in the Pacific Northwest, first of all, I think originally. And then, like we said, the Yeti or AKA Abominable Snowman in generally in the Himalayas or in frozen areas, right?
Yeah, I've always just kind of looked at it
I think they're both called Sasquatch, but I'm not 100% sure about that part. But
I've always kind of looked at it they're the same beast, just one lives in snowy mountains, high up mountain regions, and then another one lives in the woods.
Yeah.
Because there's rumors of Bigfoots, however you want to phrase it. Are they big feet if it's plural?
What's a plural?
Yeah,
What's
exactly.
Plural of
big feets. I don't know. There's been multiple big feet sightings all over. In the Pacific Northwest, there's supposedly been some in the North Carolina foothills. There's probably some that live down in the damn bayous of Louisiana. People just claim they see these things everywhere. So
here in South Carolina, though, we have the Bishopville the lizard man, the swamp or whatever.
Yeah. So
they haven't made a movie about him yet, to my knowledge.
Probably every state down in the South that has those type of swampy areas has some damn urban legend, urban myth, however you want to phrase it, right, of some type of Bigfoot type monster.
Oh, yeah.
Because I think, isn't there supposedly there's some up in the New York, up in the mountains up there, some shit like that, the foothills. I don't know, there's tons of them, we're not here to take the deep dive on that, but that's essentially what we're talking about. That's what we did in the Polar Predators event. Now we're moving into the summer months, so that's what we're going to be talking about this summer is sweaty, hairy Sasquatches all summer long. And it's going to cross over into, I guess, we haven't even really took the deep dive into whether Canon Films did any kind of Sasquatch big feats movies. I don't know if they did.
Yeah, to my knowledge, I can't think of any, but I won't say, we're no experts really on that, but we do have an expert
on tap
collaborator.
Yeah.
Austin Trunick. If anybody would know, he would.
Yeah. And I'll reach out to him to see because I was going to say if there is at least one or two, then this will cross over into cannon fodder. But if not, then I guess we can kind of put a bookmark in cannon fodder for the summer, and just get in a couple more movies. Because we put together a list. And it's pretty thick. It's a lot thicker. You would think on the surface, you're like, Sasquatch movies, there can't be that many. Oh, there's a few.
It's
Now,
weird. Like, the newer you get, or the more recent time you get, the more they come. You know, the more
yeah,
movies they come out. Right.
yeah. But to be fair, even on the list that we put together, I should add uh, some of those on that list that I put together at least, and we might even cross this bridge this summer, are documentaries.
Yeah,
We have
true.
not done any documentaries on the Spook Show. I don't recall, right? I don't remember us ever watching any kind of documentary. So
I don't think so. No.
I think this might be a perfect time to get one in because so much Sasquatch, Bigfoot type content are documentaries or,
Yeah,
quote unquote. A lot of them are,
quote unquote. Yeah,
yeah, because, do you believe in it, right? But uh, a lot of them are documentaries based on just people like, well, there's this group of people that they believe this shit, so they just spend money and time looking for Sasquatches in the woods, So that's what a lot of these documentaries are. So
yeah. And I guess you can't really talk about the documentaries without mentioning probably the biggest one, right? Or at least not necessarily documentary, but the supposed first, I guess, capture of Bigfoot on film, right? Which was what was it called? Was it the Zapruder
I think,
tapes or something like that? Zapruder reel? Or something?
like that's a good question because I'm thinking, it wouldn't the Zapruder stuff had something to do with Kennedy getting shot?
Maybe it did. Maybe it did. Hold on a minute.
Yeah, like wait a minute, Abraham Zapruder. Yeah, that was the.
That's the Kennedy thing. Huh?
Yeah.
Abraham Zapruder.
That's Kennedy. So what's
I
the?
was thinking of the name of the guy that shot that Bigfoot documentary.
Yeah, and that was back in the '60s or '70s, right? Like
Yeah.
supposedly, and that's kind of the picture and the thing that you see the most of Bigfoot, right? Is that somebody kind of lumbering through like tall grass or something, if I recall, and he's just kind of side profile and he kind of stops like, and then and then just keeps going. But that's like the most famous image. It's got to be one of the most famous images, right?
Yeah. Yeah, I had to look it up. It's the Patterson Gimlin film. So
Okay.
that was Roger Patterson and Robert Gimlin, not Gremlin, but Gimlin, I guess, or Gimlin, or how it's pronounced.
So maybe,
But yeah, that famous
maybe at
from
some point
walking.
this summer we can actually find that and talk about that.
Yeah,
Like let's just watch the,
yeah.
that. But
There
that,
is a North Carolina connection there too. I guess if we find that, maybe we'll talk about it then.
yeah,
There's
yeah.
a connection to Morris Costumes in Charlotte, North Carolina.
Oh
So.
yeah. I think we have mentioned that at some point or another.
Oh yeah, Probably have mentioned it. Might have mentioned it even back during the Polar Predators thing too,
Yeah,
or something.
maybe. But there's no shortage of movies. Specifically, like the hardest thing is going to be finding the older stuff because really, honestly, most of them like pre 1970, not much, not much. But once you get to 1970 and then specifically 1976, it's on. Like there's a ton from that point forward. Big ones, of course, like arguably we were talking about this before we recorded. Arguably, you could say the biggest Sasquatch Bigfoot movie is Harry and the Hendersons, right, in 1987. So maybe we get to that at some point this summer. But the 70s, like The Legend of Boggy Creek, Night of the Demon when you get to 1980, right? Like some of these are pretty big Sasquatch Bigfoot movies, right? So like somewhere in there, whether it's, like I said, we're going to have crossovers, not only here on the podcast, but we're going to be crossing over to our at least two of our YouTube series because Hammer, right? We can't really mess with that one, Hammer, Horror, and Order. But with Video Vortex and Grindhouse Gutter, we'll be crossing over there. So you'll get a couple extra episodes of Big Feet content over on our YouTube channel as well. So, yeah, there's just tons. And like you said, Smoke, like you alluded to, like even once you get into the 2000s, there's no shortage. I mean, there's still a lot.
Yeah.
I think some of the ones that kind of stood out when I was putting the list together that I'd seen on multiple, like, oh, these are some of the ones you need to get to. There was one called The Untold that I think, had a pretty good reception. There was another one. There was a Boggy, I don't know if it's a remake or not, but there was one in 2011 called Boggy Creek. So I don't know exactly how that ties into.
I never saw that one, but
yeah. There's found footage too, like not just documentaries, but there's found footage like I think Bigfoot, The Lost Coast tapes. That's a found footage movie, and there's some other ones. There was another movie called Willow Creek that I think a lot of people said was pretty good at the time. Another one in 2014 called Exists that I think had some pretty good reviews. So like we'll see. You know, I guess we'll find out as we go along. I'll be honest, I haven't watched a lot of these.
Yeah.
No, I've really only seen mainly, some of what you might call the classics, like Legend of Boggy Creek, uh, what
Night of the Demon.
Bigfoot, the one from 1977 that
Mhm.
has an awesome poster of Bigfoot holding up like a motorcycle or something. I forget.
Yeah,
And
the Boggy Creek thing kind of became its own little franchise, right?
yeah, there was Return. Is it Return to Boggy Creek or
Yeah,
something
Legend
like
of
that?
Boggy Creek, and
Let-
then
yeah, so that was
Return to Boggy Creek, and then Boggy,
Yeah.
and then weirdly after that, Boggy Creek 2 and the legend continues. Even though technically that would have been the third, if there is any kind of connective thread to these things, I don't know. But so
Oh,
yeah,
and then you can't forget Bigfoot and Wild Boy, which was one of those kind of Saturday morning 70s, early to mid 70s not cartoon, but live action. The people that did Sigmund the Sea Creature and H.R. Puffin stuff.
oh yeah,
Sid and Marty Krofft.
Croft, yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
And they had a Bigfoot and Wild Boy.
That's the other thing too about, and I'm sure we'll talk about this a lot this summer. A lot of these kind of venture into the comedy. Yeah, there are some that are pure horror, and there's documentaries, and there's probably some dramas and stuff like that, and like family. There's a lot of family movies, but a lot of them kind of reach, kind of like Harry and the Hendersons, I guess. A lot of them reach into that comedy, genre more than they do horror or anything like that. So, because there's a lot of animated movies too. If we're putting those on the list, a lot of them like those family movies called Little Bigfoot, and there was a sequel to that one, but there was another one like just recently. I'm just not finding it right away. That was like a handful of animated movies just in the last 10 or 15 years have something to do with Bigfoot. So, yeah, we got a lot.
I seem to remember a found footage one. We're talking about that sometime, when found footage was huge after Blair Witch, I guess early 2000s. I remember some sort of comedy related found footage thing where they were hunting Bigfoot. But hopefully, maybe I can dig that one up and figure out the title.
I mean, just based on titles, there's probably a ton of those. I mean, there's some in here called like Sorority Sisters versus Sasquatch. I don't.
Well,
I've seen this title, but I've not seen this movie. It's called The Man Who Killed Hitler and Then the Bigfoot.
Yeah, that was fairly. Was that fairly recent?
That was 2018.
Yeah. There was one that me and Tiana saw fairly recently in a well, not necessarily a theater, but it was called a micro theater in Columbia. That was a Suburban Sasquatch.
Oh God.
That was an experience, all right. I mean, it's a regional, super low budget Bigfoot comedy / splat. I don't know, adventure, fantasy, kind of all kind of things kind of thrown into this movie. Very low budget, very micro budget, regional kind of thing from 2004. But it was fun certainly in a sort of group setting,
Yeah.
There was even like just last year there was a movie called Sasquatch Sunset that I haven't seen, but it was like a mockumentary type of.
That's produced by Ari Aster.
Yeah, so,
I heard it was very good.
Yeah, I remember hearing some positive things about it. I never watched it, but like because it looks corny as hell, but it's almost like it's supposed to be like a documentary type thing where they're following around a family of Sasquatch, right? So
Yeah.
yeah, maybe we'll get to some of those this summer. I mean, I'm sure we will get to some of these. I don't know. We're not going to, even though we're going to be doing this for the better part of 3 months, we're not going to have enough time to cover all these things. So God knows what we'll get into this summer. So we just wanted to give you a little bit of a taste of what this thing is going to be about. We'll start in earnest next week. And I believe it's going to be Smoke's pick. Now, Smoke, I don't know if have you decided on one just yet, or are we going to surprise everybody next week with what that's going to be?
Might have to edit right here.
Oh, okay, well that might be a good spot.
The doggies.
Must be a raccoon or something outside. Stirred them up.
I don't know here. Should I? I mean, I could announce it here, but I don't know. I don't know if I was going to do Legend of Boggy Creek or Night of the Demon, and which I'm going to do. Like I said, I could do Night of the Demon if you wanted to do Legend of Boggy Creek. Then I'd do Bigfoot on
We can do that. Like whichever one you want to go, you just pick the one you want, and then I'll go the opposite way with it.
Yeah. Okay. But the thing is, well, yeah. I guess
that way we get those two in because I think that's two pretty big ones.
Yeah. Also, why not? Yeah, I guess we should. It'd be cool, I guess, to open with Night of the Demon because it's not as big a movie as Legend of Boggy Creek. As far as that'll kind of like put that off to near the kind of building up towards that, I guess.
All right.
Because that would be your pick. It'd be later on near the end of
Yeah,
the summer, right?
Yeah, like by the time gets back to me, that'll be like toward the end of July. So it won't be the end, but it'll be getting towards the end of it all. So
yeah, that's true.
Yeah.
So,
Okay, we'll just pick it up from there if you want to go with Night of the Demon. All right.
Okay.
All right. So
it's 1980.
when did that come out? Hold on.
Pretty sure it's 81.
It says 1980.
Let me see if
mine it says 1980.
Oh, 80. Okay, yeah, that's one of those where it's kind of like it's probably when it was shot and then it was held for a while before the release or something kind of deal or whatever. Yeah.
Might be one of those.
1980.
Yep. I think that's the official IMDb date. So I guess we'll just. That's usually what we go with.
Okay.
All right. So that just gives you a taste of exactly what we're looking at this summer. God knows what we'll get into, but next week it all starts off officially with Professor. You get to pick first. Now, the only criteria you have, obviously, other than Sasquatch movie, is it has to be an older one. And by our little criteria, older one is basically 1970 to 1999. So you got the nice little place to pick some good ones here.
Yeah.
So there's tons to choose
Sort of my
from.
favorite time period, at least when it comes to. I mean, I love early movies too, but earlier vintage, which Tiana's going to have to try and pick one of those. We'll talk about that a little bit later because it's kind of hard to find a vintage actual big.
Like I said earlier, anything before 1970 is tough. Like you're splitting.
Yeah.
You're kind of blurring lines, or however you want to phrase it a little bit. But yeah,
we'll have to figure that out. Hell, we may even have to dip into Yeti movies for that vintage years because there was a lot more Yeti movies than there were Bigfoot movies before 1969. I guess.
Yeah.
But yeah, for me, I get that time period, that sweet spot time period, I guess. So, and I'm going to go with one of my personal favorites. It may not be the best as far as, it's a low budget. It's got a decent amount of gore in it too. It's one of those kind of somewhat batshit crazy, not over the top all the way through, but it's got its moments to where when I was watching it the first time, I'm like, what in the hell's going on here? But that movie is Night of the Demon from 1980. Not to be confused with Night of the Demons with plural, which was, of course, the classic 80s demon possession haunted house movie with Linnea Quigley, etc. But not that one. But it did get kind of confused with that just from the title being similar, right?
Well, I mean, it's only one letter off, so it's not like a stretch.
Yeah, it's only one letter off.
Yeah.
And now it came out in 1980. I saw it, of course, rented the video. I have since, later on found the big box video, VHS of that I have. But I rented it back in the day, and it was a totally unexpected type movie. One of those just blind rentals. I wanted, it's a Bigfoot movie. I'll check this out, and was pleasantly surprised by it. So yeah, that's a personal favorite of mine. Night of the Demon from 1980.
Well, there you go. And I don't think we're gonna have, like we said, we're gonna cross over with the YouTube series. So I don't think we're gonna have any shortage of fodder for Grindhouse Gutter or Video Vortex either. With this, there's tons from that time period, same time period, right? To pick from. So I don't think we're gonna have any shortage between that and just to hear on the regular podcast. So look for a hairy, fun, hot, sweaty summer here from the Spook Show. So Sasquatch Summer, that's the phrase of the day. Tell all your friends. The Spook Show's doing Sasquatches all summer long. That's what you tell your friends, that the Spook Show is doing Sasquatches all summer long. In particular, the Professor. Let them know. Let them know. All right, that's enough. So
it's going to be a hell of a summer.
Yeah. So for Tiana and the Professor Smoke, I'm Josh. We are the All American Spook Show, and we'll talk to you next week for Night of the Demon.
And now, folks, it's time to say goodnight. We sincerely appreciate your patronage and hope we've succeeded in bringing you an enjoyable evening of entertainment. Please drive home carefully and come back again soon. Good night.